So Barbara Horatz is an international marketing retail specialist with a vast experience across premium goods, fashion, shopping destination development, focusing on 21st century type of outlet villages. With her company, TORG Europe, she is determined to help new developers create the best in future generations of outlets. Both a strategic and creative thinker with deep cross-border border understanding of brands and the world in which they exist, she loves to work on new outlet projects as much as improving or turning around existing ones. Her passion to help visionary professionals turn good projects into great ones. That's awesome, Barbara. But I also know Barbara in a different manner. Our path crossed about 6 or 7 years ago. I think it was 2015, the first time in the Awe Summit in Zurich, in which I was organizing. And recently, I had the opportunity to welcome Barbara in one of my trainings, which was about unlocking your story. And Barbara, I have to say, was one very good student, which really digged into finding what was her story, what really mattered to her, and many beautiful things came from that experience, which lasted very short. It was just a month, right? And this is why I invited Barbara here today, because she has many stories, but also a lot of experience in leadership. And this platform here on Thursdays with me, it's about women in leadership. And I want to take Barbara's brain and for her to share her experience with all of us, all the listeners out there, on how we women especially can improve and can leverage our intuitive, our inclusive leadership style to bring better results and to start becoming more as an agent of transformation in the world out there. Barbara, thank you very much.
Mission. Yes, that was like a big introduction. Thank you ever so much, Julia. I know it's been a long journey with you as well. We had an interruption because I used to live in Zurich, and then I left Zurich somehow for many reasons. But I'm based in Germany today, and then we found each other again because this digital world makes us all get so much closer. And I noticed that Julia is extremely active on trying to empower more and more women and give them a voice. And I'd like to join her actually in that mission, because I have been on my personal and professional journey for quite a few decades now. But I think it is the fact that over the past 2 decades, actually, I've been setting out to apply what I learned in the corporate world in my own business, and trying to find your own way at some point is something that I want to encourage other women, and not just women, also other people to do. Because as much as this is called Women in Leadership, in a humble way, I've already said that to Julia too, I think it is about women in business, but it's also about the multiple roles that we as women have and that we face at different stages in life, and how we can make them meet, and how we can also be complementary with men in our working life. And I actually find that I have always managed that there's been this balance to work out well with men in business. So that's something that I want other women to know as well. So, yeah.
I want to, because what you said something that grabbed my attention there. Women to be complementary in business. I agree, but I also want to push it forward. As I said, I want to see more women becoming the agent of transformation, not being the complementary one, but being the one that is leading something in companies, in their business, in their professional lives. And because yes, we started this conversation of empowerment, women empowerment, but just about the time I did the first All Summit 2014. Okay, can be a pretentious for me saying we started. Let's say this conversation was going on, but I would say the impulse, the momentum, it started around the mid 2014, around that. And throughout these years, like almost 7 years have passed right now. And a lot keep being said about that, women empowerment. Let's put women together. But right now, I'm more on the I'm going to say in the position. More my motivation is more like, let's start doing it. It's about time to do more, not only talking, because we see there's a lot of events, lots of women events. When I started All Summit in Zurich, it was basically the very few events dedicated only to bring women into a conversation. But now there are zillions throughout the world. But I still think that we are very good talkers, but where to implement what we talk about is the big challenge. So that is my big mission right now, to get women to doing more. I'm not saying that they are not doing, but I'm saying that they strategically position themselves as a leader.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I join you. I think we've come forward quite a bit because, hey, let me talk about my industry, because I am today and what I call a crossover between retail and real estate. And it's actually an industry where traditionally in real estate, it's been a very male-dominated industry. Still is. Things have changed too. It depends on the sector of the real estate, whether it's more, you know, in residential and commercial or others parts of real estate. But it still is. Whilst the retail part of the business has always been very much attracting women, and there are also a lot of talented women and women in leadership positions, and they shape that industry very strongly. So as it is a crossover, you benefit from both sides, and you just need to see that and be able to draw from these complementary skills. Because I always feel that, well, I don't want to stereotype, but I say we tend to be like this or that. And I feel that, well, men tend to be more matter of fact. They love to tee up deals. They love the thrill of the deal. But then it needs to also the talents of having the vision and of being able to turn it into reality, to make it happen. And that needs other skills. And very often those are the skills that women have. I mean, they're on all sides, but together that builds a good basis for making a business succeed. And I see that with, I mean, I used to work for these big companies for about a decade in my sector, and I worked for some of these big operators that are based in London, and have been building some of the most successful, what we call outlet villages across Europe. And they have built these teams. In the beginning, they were very much real estate focused, and then they realized we need to bring on board many more people with the retail skills, because it's not just about, you know, building something, piling up high, and then selling it to the next investor. In order to create value, you need more than that. And in that way, great teams have built themselves, and that's what makes the success. And it's just at some point for me, the circumstances were that I realized that when you want to create something, you don't necessarily need to be part of these big companies, because these big companies in the end, they will manage what they have acquired. The fun part of them was very much for those who were in the founding moments. The founder of my company, actually, called TORG, the Outlet Resource Group, she's a woman too. She's based in Washington, D.C. today, and she was one of the founding members also in this industry when it was in its birth stage. She was there at an earlier stage than me. I was in different sectors before. And that has really built a knowledge base that gave her the courage to say as well, I will take all of these 10 years that I had in Europe, and I will use that in order to use that knowledge and bring that to the benefit of my home country, which is the US. And with an ever-growing team, she's built that not just in the US, but in other parts of the world, into what is today one of the leading consultancies in our field. But in Europe, as I knew her many years ago, she was always looking at me and some people around me and saying, can't you guys start what I've been doing in the US, in Europe? And we just needed to find the right moment that, you know, we wanted to jump off, or we actually were made to jump off the big business ladder, because there are always moments, you know, when it's time to move on. And that moment was about 10 years ago. And until we really founded this company here in Europe, it's about 5 years ago. And then you also know what you know. You need to realize what you know yourself and what you don't know, in order to surround yourself with the people who can build that team, that you can make it happen with the team. And that's what we've been working on various projects where we've made our experience over the years. And today we have a growing force here in Europe that helps us to move on. So I mean, if women can do it as much as men, just women, I think sometimes they have less of the courage, or they think, am I able? It's such a big step, because when you're used to many years in corporate life, yes, everything is organized for you. When you step into your own business life, you need to not just know what you're maybe good at and convert that, but you also need to look after all the other things. And if you have the feeling, okay, you can't do that all on your own, then find the people who can do it with you. So I'm content, because we have built that, and we still have mileage to do. But today we feel that we've really carved out a positioning for us that makes us conquer new markets, and people come to us. So yeah.
I would say I had to stop you there, because you said something very important there. And knowing what you can do is all about knowing yourself and knowing what motivates you. It's not only about your knowledge. We are not talking here only about your knowledge or your career, what you have studied. It's beyond that. That is what sparkles you, what really motivates you to move forward, to be doing what you're doing. And as exactly the exercise we did in unlocking your story, right? When we went back there to define exactly what were the points of your life that were crucial that led you to where you are. And this is an exercise that we all should be doing throughout our lives, throughout different moments of our lives, because that also changed, but that gives us a very good factual information that will support us to identify ourselves as a professional, as a person, as a human being, in our values, beliefs, and desires, and that will build, I'm convinced on that, the confidence you need, because once you know where you're standing, where you're coming from, what matters for you, what are your beliefs, that is a lot of information you have to bring with you and to support you when you are in different situations, that you're standing in different situations, that will help you to make decisions, because then you know what really matters to you. And just today I had I was giving a training for a group of women in Thrive with Mentoring Women, and one thing I mentioned to them was that I believe that women were still very modest, and one of the reasons we're still very modest is because we most people who haven't done this exercise for sure, but also to believe that your contribution, that you can make a big contribution wherever you are. And I believe when you go into those aspects, that throughout the life, most of us just go throughout the life and go learning and then go collecting this information. And when we reach the age we are, Barbara, we have plenty of information that we put together and say, okay, now I know where I'm standing. But I believe we can do this. I would love to have this knowledge before, and this knowledge can come. And I say this before because I would love to see more women on their 30s, 50, mid-30s, when it's this crucial moment of their lives, when they are defining career or family, and they can, I believe, manage both if they want to, if they have a more strategic plan, if they believe they can. So they can then situate themselves, position themselves in a moment in time with the resources they have, knowing, understanding what are their talents and resources, and then start building this confidence that will lead them to become more agents. I want to see them more as agents of change, not only there's a time we have to play the game to be in as a part of the team. We always a part of the team, but that I invite them to believe that they can have this driving force, as these women that you mentioned, your women in the US, this driving force that say, no, I'm gonna do this on my way, and I'm going to drag these people. I'm going to get these people that will support me to move forward. Because I'm with women all the time, with everything I do, I understand you, and I agree with you that a lot have changed already. We have achieved a lot, but I can still see there's a lot of potential that is still not coming out, because these young ladies are still doubting a lot.
I know. Yeah.
We all doubt, and doubting is good. I'm not saying that's not good, but doubting with the let me find out what I need to get there, not doubting with a I cannot be there.
Yeah. Well, and I find I had this interesting conversation. You know, I live in a house with 4 millennials and my sister and a dog. They're not my own, but it's like a bigger modern tribes kind of household. And when I talk to these 16 and 18-year-olds and these young ladies, you know, they are so influenced by the media and, you know, by all these Netflix series and stuff, and they have a perception of the working world which isn't always true, you know. And they are one of the funny aspects I found was this talk about what you know, what I translate into English maybe was cat fight. They always find that women are fighting against women, and that is like such a sketched situation. And I was telling them I actually find with the years that you know, there's this sisterhood amongst women that we bond very easily, and I find that all the time in my business that I encounter some woman in some other country in the world, and that we we get into business talks, and then within a short amount of time, when we have the feeling we click and we are on the same wavelengths, we encourage each other. We help each other. We network. We pass on connections, and that is so important. So I don't have that perception, but that is something to reassure, I think, the next generation, because they very much have that worry compared to the generation of my mother. My story, because that's part of I've been part of what I've been carving out as my story, to look at where the generation of my mother was in the 1950s, and what it took them to back then make that decision, or did they have the choice to really actively make that decision? And I think it was different whether you were living in the States or in Germany, in post-war Germany or elsewhere, but it was a totally different dilemma back then, I think, than today, where the next generation has more abilities, even though we still need to give them a lot, because it still is the eternal struggle between how am I going to make it work, my multiple roles. I want to have a family, I want to have children. How much can my husband or partner help me in that? And at what points do I need to make a break? And can I do that? And I always say, find your way and try to pursue that, even if you take breaks in life, but never park it somewhere, because that is going to be difficult to pick up afterwards. Try to stay in with more or less distance over the years, and that will be easier afterwards to move on, to continue with it, and to keep your network. And I think with the years, you offer a lot of life experience and maturity as well that will help you in your business, in your relationships, and guide you in your decisions. So it is an advantage too, but it is a challenge, of course.
It is a challenge, and especially when you're saying that at the age 16, 17, it's too early to understand what the market is out there, because they are not even there yet. But and of course, I see from my experience with women, young women of several different ages in their lives. And I can see the women maybe in their early 20s, when they're starting their career, they through their 20s, they are very enthusiastic and motivated. They are, even have I would dare to say that their confidence have not been crushed yet. So, and when they went into start growing to the ladder in the 30s, and especially I always say the 30, 35s, because it's crucial for women in the sense that many of them have decided career or family, right? And how to balance that. And you brought this topic, and I always say my suggestion would be the importance, again, comes back to the importance of knowing what is important for you, what matters for you as a person. This is not being a selfish person. It's just really understand what will make you, what will make your heart sing, like say in a very beautiful, metaphorical way. And then bring this conversation to the table. The problem here, Barbara, that I believe is that our incapacity to have those conversations with our partner, to have those conversations in our work environment, with our colleagues, to have these conversations of like, let's talk about what matters to me here right now, and let me try to plan strategically in this moment in time how I'm going to get there with to achieve what I want, with family, no family, with kids, and then put all this. We still, especially women with the family, with a husband, it's always the husband's first, automatically, without even thinking. Even like we might have an alert and say, okay, hold on a second, let me step a little aside here. I have to put myself first as well, or at least side by side. And I saw this happening so much, especially in Switzerland, when I started working with women. there. And this was the reason, the core reason I started an All Summit, because I saw a very common pattern with the expat women. All good, professional, qualified women coming to Switzerland because the husband found the job. And then, of course, they come and they have this horrible, and I say here, horrible name that they define themselves. Trailer spouses. I find this insulting. Trailer spouses, they call themselves. Don't know who invented this name. Anyways, so then they are the trailer spouses. And then, of course, the husband comes and their period of settling down. We know all of this. They were prepared for that. But what they were not prepared for was to the conversation, like really prepare the conversation. So when my time will come, that you will then organize your position, your workload there to give me some space to find my way. That was the common thing. So then they ended up, they start a family because usually the money is good. And the income, it's very attractive. This is why people go to Switzerland. It's a lot of money. And then they get trapped because then they start a family and then they don't find a way to get out because this conversation was not really there. It was superficially there. And I know it's very close, so I know, because this requires more than talking superficially. Requires like saying, okay, so here, once you understand what your job entitles, like what your workload is, let's sit down again and let's plan for this transition or this process where you will have to support me to start raising myself, find my way. So and then time passes, and I know many. This is why many become an entrepreneur, which is a good thing, but it's still without this support. In most ways, we cannot generalize, of course. I'm not generalizing. Well, I mean generalizing here, but this is in a whole picture. There are exceptions, of course, but that's the thing. And this is for me, and I talk from my own experience as well. I was not capable of having those conversations maybe 10, 15 years ago because I didn't know how to do it, and I didn't know, and I'm not even sure if I knew that I had the right. I didn't have this experience in my life. I didn't see many women putting themselves forward and say, here, I need to have my space here, and I have priorities as well. So I don't know your experience on that. And I think we're still finding our place with a lot of struggle when we could start being more pragmatic and having better conversations towards that direction.
I mean, it's not just in Zurich or in your experience. The generation of women around me, it's been the same very much. I mean, I left Germany because I felt I couldn't make my mark here, or I couldn't go my way here. So from very early on, I went to the States, and from then on, I moved on and I came back to Europe, and I still didn't feel comfortable in Germany. And then I went to France, and then I moved on to London. But I don't want to talk about that. I rather want to talk about that. It is true. We don't sit back and consciously make the decision early in our life and say, what do I really want? Or I don't want this. I want it differently. And I was debating that with my mother too, and with myself. And I do see that a lot of women did not, and they end up when they've had their children right now, in their mid-40s or in their 50s, where they really struggle to find their way. And that's why I think it is so important. I do know that it doesn't always work out the way you want in life, because you can sit there when you're 20-something and say, okay, this is what I want. If I imagine myself in 5, in 10, in 20 years, that's what I want. And then you look back, 20 years later, and it might not have worked out that way. But if you don't think about these things time and again in your life, you will not be able to shape them. And I think that is important, because that will reassure and will guide you, hopefully here and there again, and give you the strength yourself, and not the feeling that you just rely on your other half, or on the love of your children, or on your other next to you. It is important that you look upon yourself and do that work with yourself, every now and then. Sure, life is such that I'm not I'm quite of a realist and quite of a pragmatic person, that life goes along too, but it shouldn't just trot along. It's too precious, and you just see when you get older, you want to try to live life well, and for that, think about the steps in your life, and dare to do things, and also dare to not succeed all the time. It is not this career, like my mother was saying to me, I could have had a career as well. I don't like this word career, because I think life is a path somewhere, and also work-wise, make your experiences, but do have that vision, because I know the millennials, they are much more, okay, I'll do that, and then we'll see, they're much more into changing. And I think it's good, because we had this feeling when we were young, we're going to have to be on the same track for the rest of our lives, like the Chinese or the Japanese. Well, I exaggerate, but it was much more that security thinking. And I think today, life is evolving so much, and
there's no stability in a job anymore. It's clear like that. No. Yeah, my husband is he's 10 years, almost 10 years older than me. So his generation, and especially because he's a doctor, is what, like, you're a doctor, you're safe. You have a career, so that's what you're going to do throughout your life, and that's what he did. But it's not like this anymore. Not even, because he's coaching young doctors to strategically plan their careers, because he saw throughout his life, even if he had a stable professional life, but that this stability is not there anymore, even in the health system. So the doctors have to be flexible to be able to move here and there, and this is everywhere. So this is important to, when you're saying having a plan, it sounds a big thing as well. It's not easy, and it needs some strategy. This is why it's so important that we have nowadays the figure of the mentors, of the coaches. That when I finished my career, this didn't exist. And if I could say one thing that I would love to have when I finished my career, was like a coach or mentor, someone that I would sit together with this person, and this person had the experience, especially a mentor, no? Because a mentor is the one who has done what you want to do, and someone that would say to me, well, here is what the way I've done. And then that at least I had some guidelines. Everything was really experimenting all the time. And experimenting is good, but experimenting also, you might fall into redoing the wheel that's already rolling there, because you think you created something new, and you're not really creating something new. But in that point, I find that it's important that for women out there, that they have the support of planning, or bringing clarity to their lives. And even if they take this break, I think there's nothing wrong if a woman decide that they want to embrace motherhood. I think this is one of the biggest challenges in life. Congratulations to you, and you should be proud of that, instead of feeling that you're less because you're not pursuing a career. But also you have to see that is that you want to do once throughout your life, because it's going to get to the point where your children want to be set free, and then you might feel lonely. So this kind of thinking that might feel way ahead of you, but you have to start thinking this from the beginning, because how many years you want to dedicate to this motherhood as well. I have a good friend, and I always admired her. She was in one of my conversations as well, because I met her about 25 years ago, when we are in our 20s still, and she was already very strategic oriented kind of mind. And I remember that she managed to do many things at the same time, but effectively, because many people say I'm a multitasker, but not really delivering good results in what you do. And we lost contact, and when we met again, found each other again here in LinkedIn, she told me, can you believe that I had a 9-year break while dedicating only to motherhood, to raise my children? And 9 years, but now she's back, and she's back in full force, and she is doing extremely well, because I'm sure that she's dedicated this 9 years to raise her family, but I'm sure that she found the time to dedicate to herself, to be up to date, to understand how her market was going, because she's a marketing person, that she was not present visually, but she was in the background educating herself, doing the things that she
Yeah.
loved. And when she stopped, she said, now guys, mommy is out now to the world. She didn't have to start from scratch, really. So that would be my
Yeah, that's
eye opener to women
yeah.
out there.
I've spent my 30s, 10 years of my working life in Paris, and I found that in France, anyway, society has always been encouraging it much more. But it's not just that; it's just a necessity, because life is very expensive, and that's why women have always been working and having children, and it was almost the exception to not be like that in Paris if you were not working. So they've learned how to juggle several roles and to deal with it. And honestly, in the going forward, I mean, I was just talking about it with my sister very recently, and we who's in a residential real estate, and she sells and rents apartment. And she says, today I need to see couples, if you are not two people working and coming with income, it's extremely difficult to make your way in life. So it's easier if you try to find a way where both can take their role and find a way to balance that. And sure, I haven't lived it, so it's easy maybe to say, but I've seen it around myself with a lot of women who have managed it. And that's what I'm really hoping, that for the world of tomorrow, that there will be more opportunities and more partnership, and that there are times when we step back, but potentially, the man steps back as well and allows the woman to breathe. So depends on what professions you're in, but that's what I think is important, because I also feel your children would want that for you. Your children would not want to see you having dedicated all your life to growing you, and then afterwards not finding your own way. And it doesn't have to be a career, but I think it needs to be a fulfillment. And I think I always thought this financial independence is important too. So that goes hand in hand, and that's why I do encourage that you find your way at an early stage, and you always keep that in the back of your mind, and you stay close to that world so that you can pick it up and are up to speed with it, and opportunities will then come.
And you said something important, Barbara, when you were mentioning your millennials nephews or niece, and about support. Women support each other. They're like the bitterness that we find out there as well. It exists. We know it exists, but it's also about your focus. Because I never think about that as well. I never. It's for me. Is I always look at women in a different manner. That it's a connection. Is about What can we build together? What can we co-create together? And that's what I will invite a woman out there to change this mindset. Of course, there'll be women there that see always the empty glass, like they half, not even half empty, empty. But there are many, many, many out there that are really seeing how we can fill this glass together. And we have the potential to support each other. And the importance of women support each other is because we have a way of understanding, of feeling with the world, expressing ourselves, that is that sometimes we few words we understand each other. Nothing needs to be said, and more than that. And it's important that we support that and support others, the ones ahead, open the doors to the ones behind. And also for the male, as you said, the men out there are many wonderful men out there that are so happy to support, to really give you that push. And as we say, we need also sponsors, no, in companies specifically. I always say to my students and my clients, and that if find in your company those good guys, those guys that can sometimes open the door for you. And even in a meeting, we know that situation that happens when a woman say something and she's poked over by the man, that have that man that support you, that bring the voice to the table and open that space on the table for you. Because this is not getting to the details here, but this is about our animal packing combination in dynamics in an environment where there's men and women. Then male always have this necessity to come across to show is their animal things, which is very interesting when you study those kind of things. But we women, we need to learn those dynamics as well, because we need to learn how am I going to play in this game here with all this alpha male here on this table, where when am I going to have the opportunity to raise my hands and speak up. So these are the dynamics we also have to learn in the world, not only when we're sitting at the table, but in the world out there, when we are communicating, when we're expressing, when we have opportunity to say something. Because believe me, Barbara, because I work with a lot of women, many believe that what they say doesn't really matter. So they don't say it, or they just don't bother. There is this
Yeah.
position of saying, I don't know what, I don't care. Let them say, let them take the medals. I was one of those women, always very um high achiever, a bit of a workaholic in my 10, 15 years ago. And I never really wanted to take any credit. When I worked for the big IT companies like Microsoft, that you had some kind of prizes when you over-delivered or overachieved, I would say, no, don't worry, I don't need that. Nowadays, I don't need really. That doesn't really fulfill my ego. That's not the thing. But I invite all the women out there is when you achieve something and is recognized, take it. Take that recognition and thank for that. And this is all the things that the little things that make big difference in our lives, as a professional, as an expert, in how people perceive us. Because at the moment I'm taking also, if you give me a compliment, Barbara, and I say, this is nothing, in a way, I'm invalidating you. In a way, I'm saying that I can even say, what is she talking about? You might feel like that, oh, I found that Julia did something so nice, and so that really touched me. And then I compliment her, she says it's nothing. So I tell the ladies out there, don't do that. If you don't have anything to say, just say thank you.
Yeah.
Acknowledge and take it.
I
And
agree
this
with
serves
you.
for many things in life, and
Yeah.
not only this.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
ladies, we have to wrap up in a moment. I want you to give your big word of wisdom to the ladies out there, in what do you like to see more happening in terms of women in leadership in this century, in this
Yeah.
new century.
Yeah. I'd like women, as you said, to be courageous and to be to be forward looking and to have. I mean, you know me, I always have this thing about optimism and positivism, because I think it is an automatism in a way. If you have this positive mental attitude, good things will come to you. But you are the one who holds the keys in your hand in order to open these doors that are out there. But you have to also walk through them, and then find a way that you want to walk. So have that courage. Think about yourself every now and then in life again, and go for it. It's never too early, but it's also never too late, I would say. So here you go.
Barbara, thank you so much for being here today. We had lots of, you have sent me lots of information. We could have talked about a lot of topics, but I believe we had a good conversation here, and I hope people watching, there's some people watching, and the ones who will watch after will find some insights and inspiration. And one thing I would like to say to everybody, of a lady out there, reach out for support. This is one of the most difficult things for everybody, every professional, to reach out for support. But it's very important, and this sooner that we go looking for people that can give us a hand, can open a door, and that will help us and make the journey even more enjoyable, because it's more enjoyable when we do together with someone.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having had me on this talk. It was thrilling. It was really interesting.
Thank you very much, Barbara. And we keep in touch.
We will. Goodbye.
Bye for now.